Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast on the Sicha. I apologize for being missing for a couple weeks, but we are back. Today, we are going to be discussing and learning and unpacking a Sicha from Likutei Sichos, Chelek Chukas. The Sicha of this week that we're talking about is Chukas Aleph. And really, in short, we have an interesting scenario here where the Rambam, who is very much in the Rambam talking about halachas and what needs to be done and how to conduct yourself. It's very, very straightforward. Deviates, at least seemingly, from his general approach and teaching style, and inserts a prayer. It almost feels like a misplaced prayer. It's like, what does it belong here? A prayer, obviously, from Mashiach. So to set the table, to open this up, and what's happening here, how is it connected to the Parsha, the red heifer, the Parah Aduma? Moshe, lay the table, and let's get into it.
Okay. So Parshas Chukas begins with the mitzvah of the Parah Aduma, the red heifer. When someone becomes ritually impure, a mixture is made with the blood of the red heifer, and it is sprinkled onto the person, and he becomes a tahir. He becomes ritually clean. The Rambam, when discussing these halachas, these laws, the Rambam says that there were so far 9 red heifers done since Moshe Rabbeinu, and then the Rambam says the 10th one will be done when Mashiach comes, and then adds the words Mehera Yigala Amen Kein Yiratzin, may he be revealed speedily, Amen, so may it be his will. And the Rebbe wonders as to the Rambam being a sefer of halachas, and the Rebbe has brought this up in the past, that the Rambam is very strictly, halachas doesn't discuss history or other things like that unless it's relevant to the halacha. Why would the Rambam include a prayer smack in the middle of a halacha? And the Rebbe is going to answer the question by saying that the Rambam is teaching us a halacha, that the yearning for Mashiach has to be so powerful that as soon as we mention Mashiach, we immediately say Mehera Yigala. In other words, the Rebbe is saying that the Rambam is alluding to a halacha, that the yearning for Mashiach is not just something that we're waiting for. It's actually something that not just something that we believe in, but it's something that we're waiting for, and we'll elaborate on this in a moment. Pardon?
No, before you jump to the answer, let's finish off with let me
just finish the answer, and then we'll go back to the question and elaborate. Okay. I'm just setting this table. The point of the Rebbe's answer is that the Rambam is teaching us a halacha that the yearning for Mashiach should be by a person so intense that when he mentions it, even if he's mentioning Mashiach on another topic, he calls out the prayer, may he come speedily in our days, may be revealed speedily in our days. That's basically the beginning and the answer. I skipped the middle. I just wanted to set the table. Now I'll throw it back at you.
So I think that before we jump into the answer and the lesson, which is really beautiful, and we'll break that down, I think it's worthwhile just to take a couple minutes, to appreciate the answer and to appreciate the follow-up and what the Rebbe wants from us. The whole Sicha, at least the way I learned it and I understand it, is there's one fundamental premise. There's one sort of foundational question that's riding through the entire Sicha and therefore leads us to the answer. And the foundational question is a very, very interesting question. It's a question about misplaced prayer. It's about davening when you're not supposed to. Almost, it's about inserting, a tefillah. It's almost like there should be a separation of church and state. It's like, what are you bringing religion into this space? What are you bringing davening? Why are you davening here? It's like, what are you davening in the airport for? Like the classic, the daven in shul and daven and do what you have to do, but now is not a time.
Like the Rebbe often brings. Zman Torah Luchud, Zman Tefillah Luchud. There's a time to daven, there's a time to learn, and not always can you mix the two.
Right, and here what's happening is throughout the Sichas, the Rebbe is bothered, and the premise of all the questions and the answers going back and forth. There's one theme is that if the Rambam is making a prayer in middle of his learning, so to speak, in the middle of his teaching, then it can't just be he's just popping in a prayer because it's hey, let's make a prayer right now. It has to be that it's connected to halacha, which is the end. That is actually where the Rebbe goes with the conclusion of it. But I think it just reflecting on that for a minute. Very often we get, on the premise at least, we get caught up with an issue. An issue. It could be world issues. It could be something going on in Eretz Yisrael. It could be something going on in our personal life. It could be somebody who got us upset. It could be something amazing that just happened to you today, and like you're so excited about it. It could be positive. It could be negative, and it's just almost like extremely consuming. And even though you have a right to be consumed by that, and even though there's a natural explanation for it, the question here is it still appropriate to be talking about that in every single circumstance that you are throughout the day, and to be overly, that you're all consumed by it? It's almost a question like, does it belong? Does it belong in every single space? Sometimes it could be quite annoying for people to just not, okay, enough. We heard about it already, and now we got to move on to something else. There's a time for that. Thank you for sharing that, but now we got to move on to something else. So that's really yeah.
Also think about it from an employer-employee perspective. If you're someone working for you, and something's going on in their life that is distracting them from work, then, I mean, you're a nice guy, so you're not going to fire them. But I'm saying at a certain point, it's going to become annoying and also distracting to the performance of their job, because they're getting carried away with something that's not relevant to their job. And in a sense, what's going to happen here is the Rebbe is going to say is that the yearning for Mashiach, there is an element of it that is all consuming, even in halacha, even in Torah. But
which is really the beautiful, yeah.
Okay, so that's our question. Our question is, where's why does the Rambam not respect the line between the halachas that he's teaching and his yearning and his desire and his belief that when it comes to that when you mention Mashiach, you have to daven for it and ask Hashem for it. That's basically the question.
Right.
Where do you draw the line? One
more thing just to throw in, and then we'll shift over with just an interesting observation that I think is just another teachable idea in for ourselves, and very interesting, I find, is that when the Rebbe talks about these people, the Rebbe talks about a Rashi or a Rambam or a Namaira or a Tana or whatever it may be, it very much feels like the Rebbe knows them and knows their styles. It's like when we talk about the people, the great rabbis of our generation, right? Whether it's our Rosh Yeshivas or whoever it may be, and you can mention different names, their styles of limud. Rabbi Shapiro's, Shulchan Shalom, how he kochs in a certain inyan. But if I say that avarta, you'll be, you got that from Rabbi Shapiro. Like there's certain people have styles. There's certain people have just they're halacha people. They're right away they're going into chassidus, and everything is Kabbalah, and everything is or if it's your father, for example, right away you almost know. You hear a varti without even putting a name to it. Sometimes you could almost slap the name on real quickly. So when the Rebbe is talking about these people, and depending what the Sicha is, but from here, again, in the premise, it's very clear that the Rebbe sort of knows the Rambam, and this is out of character of the Rambam. And it's just a fascinating thing. So you're learning a Rambam, this is what, it's when you know the culture, the style, the derech and avoda, derech of learning and so on of this, whoever you're talking about, and all of a sudden you see something which, at least on the outside, seems like it contradicts that style. Immediately, there's a question. There must be something deeper here. So either one. So and now let's just, I guess, take that into the Rebbe's amazing way of learning, is saying no. This is exactly the Rambam. The Rambam is teaching us halachas, and that theme has to be followed through here, like a Rashi. It continues. It's a pshuta shel mikra. So what's the answer? So Marshall, how is this prayer and a tefillah and a bakasha interconnected to halacha? What's the chiddush over here?
So the easiest way to go is just to jump to the answer, the final answer. But I think there's a lot of depth in the middle of the Sicha, where the Rebbe contrasts the Rambam and the Mishnah, And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but just make the point that it seems that the Rebbe is being mechadesh. The Rebbe is explaining the Rambam, that the Rambam actually has an approach with regards to the para aduma, with regards to the mixture that came from the para aduma, that based on the fact that it says in the pasuk limishmeres, and the Rambam says there were three different parts. One of them was kept in the chayil, was kept in the Beis Hamikdash for safekeeping. That the Rambam is saying that there's a mitzvah that at all times there should be a para aduma mixture in the Beis Hamikdash. Not so much in case you run out of the next one to have a backup plan, but just for the very fulfillment of the mitzvah lemishmeres. And if that's the case, then if we are in Galus, or when we are in Galus, and there's no para aduma in the chayil, there seems to be something missing in the very mitzvah. And this is bothering the Rambam. How could it be that the mitzvah is incomplete? And therefore the Rambam says, that it's true that we're going through a period of time where for reasons beyond our control, there's a lack, but don't worry about it. It's only temporary, because the Yesod is a mitzvah that it should be timidi, it should be constant and consistent. So you should just know that very soon Mashiach is coming, and when Mashiach comes, we will be able to restore, just like we see later in the Rambam, that the job of Mashiach is to restore Torah and mitzvahs to its original standing. Part of that is that the para aduma will resume its completed form, because Mashiach is going to come, and then there will be a para aduma, and we'll be able to have the mixture in the chayil. And with this, the Rebbe explains not just the fact that the Rambam tells us something which does not seem to be halachically relevant. It is halachically relevant. The 10th one is the completion of the mitzvah. But not only that, but Meheira Yigala. The Rambam is eagerly awaiting the coming of Mashiach. Point one in the Sicha is, because since the halacha is lacking something, there is an eagerness in the Rambam, an anticipation in the Rambam, that we should be able to reach a point where that mitzvah will be completed.
Let me just take a small wind down in that before we go to point two. It's an interesting mitzvah, and I'm sure there's other examples, but the idea that the mitzvah is not for what's being done with it, but the mitzvah is to have it, is that entire process of it being present, of it being there with you, of it being something that you could tap into and to touch and to feel and to visualize and to see, and not that you're going to use it. It almost doesn't have a function, even though it does have a function. But the word here is it's l'mishmeres. I have it. It's here, and when it's not there, there's that's the chiddush here, is the Rambam saying, is when it's not. So first of all, it should be there, and when it's not there, what happens? It creates a lack, creates a yearning, and that yearning is this whole tefillah. So first of all, just about mitzvahs. I mean, most mitzvahs that we interact with, I think, are a little different. They're more like to do. Get it done and be done. Just do it. Just put on tefillin, and it's done. Is there a mitzvah to have a pair of tefillin? I mean, you need to have a pair of tefillin in order to put on a pair of tefillin, but or whatever. I don't give lots of examples.
It's a good example.
Yeah. So I would imagine. I mean, there's a little kaftam lechem maybe for a little bit of esrog, but whatever. But for the most part, I mean, I'm sure there are other examples. Maybe a sefer Torah for a king, for a melech, or whatever. I don't know. We're not going to start giving all the examples, but the general idea here is that the process and the very presence of the efer, of the para aduma, the ash, the to have it, that alone, it's satisfying. It's belonging. It's part of who we should be, even in Gullus.
I'm gonna go on a tangent.
I know. Yeah.
And I know you don't like when I always, not always. I know you don't.
I know exactly where you're going, and go ahead. It's fine. It's a Gimel Talmud Sicha, essentially, right?
How do you know where I'm going?
Because I know. Because I know how you think. Exactly what we're talking about. Just like the Rambam. No, you're not the Rambam. But this is, yeah. Go ahead.
We were actually just bringing about this. And to a lot of people, the existence of a Rebbe is to serve a purpose. I need an answer. I need a bracha. I need guidance. So So we need an address for it to turn to.
It's a function. It's a function.
It's a function.
A bracha, whatever. Exactly.
And there has to be a concept in our minds that the very existence of the Rebbe, of a Rebbe, of the Rebbe, is fundamental to the entire Yiddishkeit. Even if I can't ask, and even if I don't get an answer, or I have other places today I can ask and I say l'charav, whatever it is, but the function of the purpose is not just because I need it. The purpose is because it has to exist. A Yiddishkeit cannot exist without the concept, not the concept, without the existence of a Rebbe. And therefore, I'm jumping ahead. And therefore, in a tkufa where we can't see it and feel it the way we did, knowing that everything that we need exists today, and the Rebbe is here for us, and the Rebbe is leading, etc., there's still a hasidus yasa melech hamashiach meheda yigala. There's still a yearning because the limishmeres is not here. Anyway, this is if I'm bringing it for itself, and we can elaborate on this. I don't want to go.
I just want to argue with you, just for the sake of it, because we're there. Is that, or you could say that the mishmeres is there.
Yes,
in a galus type of way, and since you brought it up, I want to take a moment just to fabreng on this nakuda for 1 second, then we'll go back to the Sicha. But I just want to share. I don't know if we talked about this before, but I know for myself that I try and go. I make sure to be by the oil at least once every 3 months. Sometimes much more often, but sometimes I'll go to New York, I'll go to the oil, but I not necessarily by going into the oil. And I'm not giving this as a hiral rabbim, I'm just giving you my own feelings. Just being there and being in that presence, it's not about what I'm going to ask or upon I'm going to write and what the miracle that's going to happen or the response or whatever it is. It just the mitzias of the Parah Aduma has to be there. And there's a certain, I remember Fabregging years ago, somebody shared a story, and I might mess up the story, but if you know, but just a sort of a feeling, that in the early years, I don't know what the early years means. I think maybe in the 60s or something, Gershom Mendel Gorelik wanted to come to the Rebbe, but my understanding, the way it worked then was, to leave your shluchas to come to the Rebbe, ask Rishus, and I don't know if he asked or he didn't ask or whatever it was, but he wasn't really coming for something. He needed to be present. So my understanding is he flew from Italy and took the train. He stood outside 770. He watched the Rebbe walk into 770, and then he got back on the train and went back to Italy. And again, back to the same point. It's not about some people will look at the function of a Rebbe. You could go, you could get lekach, you get a bracha. You have a problem, you have sort of stavis, whatever it may be. And there's another concept, exactly what we're saying here, that it's not about that you're going to take that far Parah Aduma and you're going to be mitayr the tmeim, even though that's a very important function of it. Here, the Rambam's chiddush is l'mishmeres. It has to be. It's a mitzvah that must be part of the function of the whole spiritual everything going on. It has to be this ruchnistic element must be present, and obviously in Gullus we don't see it, and it's not there. But anyway, let's go. Let's come back to
So to parallel this concept that the Rambam is bothered, so to speak, not bothered, but is concerned about the lack of the mitzvah, the Rambam is also teaching us now a halacha, that we have to be concerned about what's missing within us when Mashiach is not here yet. In other words, it's not just Hasidus Yasa Melech HaMashiach, and so now I know, okay, when Mashiach comes, the Parah Aduma will be fulfilled. There's also a person here that is learning this halacha and learning about it, and he or she have to realize that if Mashiach is not here yet, there's something lacking within them. And therefore, it's not enough to just believe in the coming of Mashiach, but we have to eagerly await and anticipate the coming of Mashiach, because our shleimus, our completion, is lacking as long as Mashiach is not here. And according to halacha, if I need something, if I need money, if I need a gesund, I need something, I have a mitzvah min HaTorah to daven for it. So, and that's the ultimate mitzvah of tefillah. So if I need Mashiach, then I have a mitzvah to daven for it. It's one of my tzrachim, it's one of the necessities that I am in need of, that I have to daven for. And the Rambam is telling us a halacha. This is going back to the original point. The Rambam is not just davening for Mashiach. The Rambam is teaching us a halacha that Mashiach has to be a need for us, to the point that we have to daven for it whenever we get the chance.
I'll just add something to that. So you're answering, and that is the answer from a halachic standpoint. I think that there's also like a psychological perspective to add to it, to humanize the whole experience. When you're obsessed with something, back to our original premise, because the answer is actually lying in the question. No.
100%.
So when you're taka obsessed with something, and that's the human nature, you'll see that in the way you conduct yourself, and then you could test yourself how obsessed. I'm just using that word because I don't have a better language. You are with that. So if you just make it as a prayer, as a something, whatever, then it's not. You have it in your davening, and where do we say it? You checked it off, you're done, goodbye, and you move on with life. But if it's something that really takes over your mind, takes over your heart, it's something that you really are excited about. And I sometimes the easiest way is to look at something gashmis, that you've been waiting for, to buy, to have, to acquire, to achieve, whatever it is, because sometimes gashmis, you could feel it more, you could feel that experience more, and you also could feel the waiting and the anticipation to go to camp. My daughter was counting every day, she's telling me how many hours are left, and she's excited. She's obsessed. How many days are left to school? We're done, and then now we're getting ready. It's a whole achakal b'yase. It's like it's a serious situation, which is amazing. So you see that it's like fully consuming. So she can't go a day and not talk about camp. It's not going to happen. It's just not possible. And that is actually a personification of a chakal b'yase, of a halacha. So it's actually a human experience. And that has to be what we're talking about in relation to our hope, but not just hope, and not just our believing, because it's a principle of belief, sure, but how does it feel to me? What's going on in my mind? How do I, when I eat breakfast every day, when I go on a bike ride, when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, how much of that is interconnected to something that I'm missing? If you're missing something, if you lost your wallet, then your whole day, even though you have a meeting now, and even though you're having a coffee, it's still there. You cannot. What am I get my wallet back? How do I? If you're missing something, whatever it may be, you want to use as an example, and it's serious, and it matters to you, and anything you're doing throughout your day, you don't even have to write it down. It's there, and if there's an opportunity to do something about it, almost anything you're doing is going to stop. So you could sort of bring that in and fix it. So the whole vart here is there is a lacking, and that's the chiddush of the Rambam. I'm lacking something. Something's missing by me. My whole day is impacted. I put on tefillin with somebody. What am I missing here? I'm missing Mashiach's not here. So Mashiach is in the tefillin. I'm making a bracha on a coffee. Mashiach is in everything because you're lacking.
Very beautiful. This is something that we could go on and on and on about, but I'm going to conclude or begin the conclusion with a reference that the Rebbe made. I believe it was in this Farbrengen, and I actually remember as a child doing this. But the Rebbe tells in the Farbrengen that that a woman wrote to him a letter saying that she got a letter in the mail. It was one of those mail chains. Later there were email chains. Today it's WhatsApp chains. Yeah. A woman wrote to the Rebbe that she got a letter, and in the letter it said that if she doesn't forward this to 10 people, then something very bad is going to happen to her. And she was asking the Rebbe either what she should do or if it's true. And the Rebbe said that, of course, he told her not to worry about it. But then he thought about it, and he said, why would it come to me? Such a question, like what's the relevance to me? And the Rebbe basically encouraged everyone to write letters to 10 people, to encourage them to say we want Mashiach now, or to. And I remember actually, I think we were in Rabbi Yossel Polter's class, and we sat down and we wrote 10 letters. I don't even know who I sent it to. Who would I have sent at that age to 10 different people? But the Rebbe took a relatively random story and translated it immediately to Meheda Yigala Amen Kein Yiratzen, to encouraging people to talk about Mashiach and to how much we want it and how much we need it. And And in all honesty, whether the Gullus has gotten that much worse in the last Tkufas Man, or we look at it, from the Rebbe's perspective, there's one thing that the Rebbe wanted more than anything else, and there's one thing that we have to want more than anything else, and to the point that we should feel that, as accomplished as we are, as successful as we are, as much as we can go to the Rebbe and say, Rebbe, I'm doing your shlichus, and we're building buildings, and we're being Mikar of Yidden, and we're doing your Mivtsayim, but as long as we don't have the Bias HaMashiach, it has to be a need of ours, a necessity of ours, and we have to really, truly want it. And if we need an example of someone that really, really, truly wanted it, we have the example in front of our face. We have the Rebbe who didn't stop and tried to the best of his ability to get us to want it, not just because he wanted it, but because we have to really want it. And we can't want it just because he wants it. Some people say, I want Mashiach because the Rebbe wants Mashiach. And it sounds very chassidish, but that's not really wanting it. That's like, I want the part Aduma because I need to become tired. We have to want it because we have to really, really want it because the Rebbe taught us that we cannot reach where we have to reach without it.
Go ahead.
I'm done. I'm not done until Mashiach comes. But I said
I'll just finish off. This is that I think that we, like you were saying, is we could look at the Rebbe and you talk about a rich person on every level. Rich meaning fully achieved. I don't know how anybody, like, what other way could you talk about being satisfied with your life, right? Yet at the same time, the Rebbe expressed himself as so lacking and so needing Mashiach. And I think that to us, that's what I could take away from here, is that that's the chiddush of the Sicha, that's sort of the premise, is to ask ourselves, are you lacking? Am I lacking? Do I feel that I walk around my day with all your achievements, with all my achievements, with everything that a person may be doing, and Mirza Shem, people should do and be matzliach and everything that they're doing, do you feel lacking? We break the glass under the chuppah. Do you feel it? Do you feel that we're missing something? Not just because there's a tragedy, and not just because it's October 7th, and not just because of all these things, which they're all true. But do I feel in my big success of everything that I'm doing, and everything that you're doing, and everything that the Yankel's doing, am I feeling lacking every day? Is my wallet missing from am I missing something? And that lacking drives us to achaka l'biyasei. So I think that that's a practical takeaway, to ask ourselves those questions, and to be able to have that feeling resonate within us, so that we could really come close to Amen Kein Yiratzon.
Amen. I just to conclude with a quick story, just to make your point. Because I know you're involved with mental health, I think you might appreciate this. The story is that when the Alter Rebbe was in jail, they did a psychological, I guess, I don't know what the word in English is, when they
assessment,
and they concluded that there's a void and a yearning that he has, that he wants something else and he can't accomplish it, and they interpreted it that he wanted to become the next Tsar or the next king of Russia, and they used that as a proof that he was trying to overthrow the regime. The Rabbeim, I'm not sure, is explaining the Sicha that what he wanted was a lakus. Ich will ja gar nicht. Ich will nicht dein Ganeten, ich will nicht in Elam haben, ich will nicht as dich allein. And the psychologically, or whatever the proper medical term is, he was yearning for something. There was a yearning for something that he wanted that he couldn't get, because it was a lakus. And you can certainly say the same thing about the Rebbe, and that is that, as you said it, with everything that the Rebbe accomplished, so to speak, there was something missing, and therefore there was a real achaka l'biyasei. And if only we could learn from that, we should be zeicha, that we should be reunited with the Rebbe. Meheira Yigala, Amen Kein Yiratzon.
Excellent. We'll see you all next week.
It's Hashem.
1 second.